Also, a lot of men think that they have to change their entire personality if they want to find a girlfriend or a life partner who's right for them. And if you have consumed any kind of personal development or motivational content, then you might have fallen into that mental trap as well. The mental trap of believing that you have to revamp and change your entire being, completely change who you are in order to find a partner who's right for you. And it's understandable that you might think that, because if you're 30, 40, 50, or even 60 years old, and maybe you've been divorced, you've had a couple of relationships, maybe you've never had a relationship, but currently you're struggling with finding somebody who's just right for you, that you can maybe settle down with, have a family with, have a long-term relationship with. If you don't have that person right now, then it's understandable to assume that you might have to do a drastic change. But I'm here to tell you that the change you have to make in order to find somebody like that is actually not that drastic. 98% of the work that you would have to do in order to find somebody that you can watch Netflix with, spend the weekends with, share your life with, is already done. You have already done most of the work. You've already done so many things well in your life. Maybe you're a business owner, maybe you have a regular job. You have done most things right in your life. If you're able to watch this video, if your life is not in complete shambles, but if you have most things somewhat in order, then 98% of the work is already done. And you will only have to make a 2% change, and that's communication. That 2% change is going to give you all the results that you want. Because you have to understand, this whole dating thing is not manipulation. You're not supposed to change yourself in order to please somebody else. If you really had to change yourself at a core and fundamental level in order to find a partner who's right for you, then how right could that person be for you? Okay? Communication is really just that 2% piece. And Tony Robbins has this metaphor where he talks about, in golf, for example, if you hit, and I don't play golf, so I don't really have an idea. I could only tell it to you from a martial arts perspective. But my dad plays golf, so metaphorically I've heard a little bit about it. I have enough context from people telling me to be able to make a useful metaphor in this context. So if you hit the golf ball at a certain angle, it may go straight. If the angle is only 2% different, then over the course of 5 meters, you might not even notice that big a difference. But over the course of 10, 20, 50, 100 meters, or however far the golf ball may fly, you're going to notice a substantial difference. If you change the angle just a little bit in the beginning, if you venture out further, over time or space or distance, you're going to end up at a completely different destination. And that's the beautiful thing. You only have to make a 2% change in your life, and that is the communication in relation to dating. And the destination you're going to end up in your life, in terms of your dating life and your relationship life, is going to be completely different. Okay? Please don't believe that you have to change your values. If you're an introvert, that you have to become an extrovert in order to make something happen. That is complete nonsense. If you're an introvert, you can stay an introvert, that's fine. But being an introvert has nothing to do with being shy. Okay? Being shy is a habit. It's a pattern that you established over time. It's a pattern of thinking, feeling, and acting. Okay? You can be an introvert and you can cherish the time by yourself. You can enjoy watching Star Wars, playing the guitar, whatever nerdy hobby you may have. In my case, the nerdy hobby has always been martial arts. Karate, in my case, right? That was my nerdy thing. And I've been on dates where literally the entire date consisted of me talking about martial arts or personal development, okay? That was literally 90% of the entire date. And then we went home together and good things happened, right? But it was literally 90% of the date was in this very particular scenario. I walked up, I met her in a pub, or rather it was a club, I believe, and we danced a little bit, and we kissed, and we exchanged numbers. That was years ago. And then we just met for a date, and I walked in, and that was a time where I wasn't drinking any alcohol. Now I drink very, very little alcohol, okay? Now I might drink alcohol maybe 8 times a year or something, and then a maximum of 2 or 3 drinks. And I'd recommend that you reduce your alcohol consume at least a little bit, because it will negatively impact your communication skills. So either way, we rock up to the place. I meet her in front of the bar, kiss on the cheek. We walk in, and I go to the till, or to the bartender, and I order a drink. I ask her, what would you like to drink? She says, well, red wine. I was like, okay, cool. You can go grab a seat over there in the booth. That one in the corner looks pretty good. And I'll get the drinks and I'll come over. So I order a red wine for her and a cranberry juice for myself, because I wanted something that has a little bit of sugar in it. And yeah, so that was my drink. So I walk over to the end of the bar. I sit down with her. We have the date. And within the first 5 minutes, she asks me, well, what did you order? I said, cranberry juice. I said, you didn't want a drink? I said, no, thank you. I don't drink alcohol. And she was like, oh, now I feel stupid. She was from Spain, so she had a bit of a Spanish accent. I said, why do you feel stupid? Well, because I don't even like to drink myself, but I think it's a done thing. I think that's what people do. So when they go on a date, they get drinks. So that's why I wanted to do that as well. Gracias. So she was like, that's what people do. And that's why I ordered it, but I didn't even want to do it in the first place. And I was like, well, don't need to do that. So that's just a little example of how me not changing my drinking habits, or like not drinking alcohol, even increased attraction in that case, because I didn't change something that was very important about me just to please her, right? So we proceed with a date, and yeah, basically I just get into a rant and I start talking about various different psychological needs we have. Okay, we talked a little bit about martial arts, and then like half an hour I basically gave a bit of a motivational talk, because that was my nerdy hobby. And that was it. Then we went home together. And like, actually not home, we went to a hotel together. And good things happened that night. And that was just an interesting story, because I completely overshared. Now this is not something that you should do on a normal basis. Normally you shouldn't be doing 90% of the talking. It should be a little bit more, maybe 50-50. It should be a bit more even. The proportions should be a little bit more even. But in that case, because I was so passionate about what I was really into, she reacted to the emotions that I was feeling much more so than the precise words themselves. Do you actually think that she really gave a damn about the psychological needs? I don't really think she did. Maybe she did. It wasn't her thing, right? She was working for one of the big tech companies here in Dublin. I don't think it was particularly her passion. But she got excited because I got excited about it. You've had that before, where if people simply own something, they own the mental emotional state they're in, they own their nerdy hobbies, they completely embrace the nerd within, you actually begin to develop an interest. Because human beings are curious in nature. You got to keep that in mind. We are curious people. We want to know things. If somebody delivers a certain message with a degree of certainty, you're naturally prone to listen. But it's going to be very difficult for you to create attraction if you doubt that what you have to offer to her has any value. Why should she care about what I have to say? Why should she care about me the way I am right now? I'm not good enough yet. I have to change myself. That's what all the personal development people tell me. That's what all the motivational guys tell me. Change yourself. But hey, to be honest, changing myself seems like a really, really big task. But understanding that 98% of the work that you have to do is already done seems a little bit more manageable, doesn't it? You only have to do 2%, and that is the change in the communication. You have to add a skill set, and that is dating. You got to keep in mind, regular social skills, regular communication is a little bit like driving a car, right? And you may be very well able to drive a car, but dating is like skiing. Just because you can drive a car doesn't mean you know how to go down a black diamond hill. But the good thing is, in order to learn skiing, or in order to learn driving a car, you never had to change who you are. You don't have to change what you genuinely like about yourself. You don't. And the people who try to change themselves for women, to impress them, they're the ones who can't make it work for years. They either don't get any dates, because their communication is so repelling to women that they get a date and then they don't want to meet them for a second date, or they can only seem to date the wrong kind of women. They go, it's okay, but it's just like, I don't know, it just didn't click. Or one thing that I hear a lot from our clients in the beginning is, oh yeah, like the struggles that they come to me with is, yeah, I can find somebody, but it's just not, we don't have the same degree of compatibility, right? It's either that the intimacy is amazing, right? We have amazing sex, but that's about it. Or we get on really well, but I don't, to be honest, find her physically that attractive. Or I find her physically attractive and we have a great connection, but there's also the thing of intelligence, right? These are the three core pillars that have to match. There's intelligence, there's personality, and then there is the physical attractiveness. And in our society, we've been so shamed into thinking that expressing a preference for the physical looks of a person is a terrible thing. You're so shallow. I hear it all the time. When people apply for the coaching programs in the initial calls, in the free coaching calls, they sometimes tell me, yeah, I would actually like her to be maybe fit and to do sports or something like that. I know it's very shallow, but, and one of the things I always say is, that's not shallow. There's nothing shallow about that. Because you got to keep in mind, Tom Bilyeu talks about that all the time. Like, you have to be physically attracted to her. It's important. There are some people who walk around this world and they are virtue signaling. It's just about the inner values. Really, is it just about the inner values? Well, if I'm not trying to have sex with a person, then it's just about the inner values. But the whole package matters. The whole package matters. Okay? You have to be attracted to the person physically, because if you're not physically attracted to them, the intimacy is not going to be good. And intimacy is a big part. It's not the biggest, it's not the most important one, but it is a very important part of an intimate relationship, of a long-term relationship, of a marriage. Okay? You have to have similar values. But if you are a computer scientist, a business owner, an engineer, like a barber, whatever kind of job you have, own it. This is who you are, and understand that you've done so many things right across your life. Okay? Not perfect. None of us are perfect. I have many flaws. But you don't need to be perfect. But you've done so many things right. The base is already there. You are already a fully functioning adult. You already have what it takes. The only thing that you're missing is the communication piece. Now that is absolutely critical. Maybe you've heard the story, pardon me, I tend to mess this up a bit, but it's not quite accurate, but it's something along the lines of this. They had this big boat or this big ship that was about to launch or depart for the first time, right? There were like thousands of people on the boat. It was a big, big, big thing. But when they were about to start the engine, so everybody was on the boat, okay, everybody was all dressed up and real fancy, like kind of Titanic kind of thing, right? And everybody was dressed up super fancy. And when they were about to get started, they couldn't get the engine to start. And they were like, holy shit, what are we going to do? What are we going to do? Because there's thousands of people who paid an insane amount of money to be able to participate in this ride. And the freaking engine isn't starting. What are we going to do? Well, what they did is they called somebody, a boat expert, like an 80-year-old guy with a beard who's been working on boats his entire life, right? Like a real expert, right? He knows this stuff inside out. Okay, so they call him over. He walks up very calmly. He's not really impressed by the stress of the situation because he understands that situations in and of themselves are never really stressful, right? They're never really stressful in and of themselves. It is just never the external stimuli that gets you stressed. It's your interpretation of it. So he understood that very well. So he walked up there quite gracefully with his old beard, and he walked into the engine room of the boat, and they asked him to look at the motor and to hurry up. He took his time, and he checked the engine for 5 minutes. He listened to different pieces. He looked at different parts, right? Felt a couple pieces. He takes out a little hammer, okay, with this little, I don't even know what you call it. It's a little part at the end, right? A little wooden part at the end. And then he knocks one particular part, one particular spot of the engine, and boom, 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 boom. The engine starts again. The ship is about to depart. Everybody's super happy. And they're like, thank you so much. Then he pulls out a little notepad and he pulls out a receipt. So he writes a receipt for $20,000. And he hands it to them. And they're like, what? $20,000? That took you 5 minutes? You traveled there for 30 minutes, okay, maybe, but it took you 5 minutes. How the hell can you justify $20,000 for tapping on one spot? He says, well, it's $1 for the tap, but $19,999 for knowing where to tap. And that's exactly the thing. We all have individual sticking points and blind spots. I mean, the fact that you haven't been able to find somebody is due to the fact that you don't know what the mistakes are in your communication. You're doing so many things right, but you know that in your job, be it whatever area, could be human resources. What's the bottleneck in the business? If you're writing a piece of code, it can be the entire thing. 99% can be running really well, from what I hear. I'm not an expert. Friends of mine are. But one line is messed up, and the entire coding mechanism, JavaScript, Ruby on Rails, doesn't work anymore. It's one little piece. And now, obviously, what we do is we teach a system, right? That's been proven with clients from, at this stage, 11 different countries. Men from all walks of life. And if you would like to learn what that looks like, what your individual sticking points and blind spots are, what the unique 2% change are that you would have to make in order to find a girlfriend or life partner who's right for you, then apply for a first free coaching call with the link under this video. And we're going to design an individualized step-by-step plan for you, how you can achieve that. We're going to keep walking through Dublin Temple Bar here a little bit. I hope you have a fantastic day, and I'm looking forward to speaking to you soon. Take care.